This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 99.
Nine. Exactly.
99. How you doing, Iceberg Tim?
Is that my new rap name? Anyhow, so
right, I guess it should be. I guess it should be Iceland, Tim. But yeah.
Yes, that's where I am. I have a concert here tomorrow. Do some sightseeing. It doesn't. The thing about this time of year when you're this far north, the fucking sun doesn't go down. So it just feels like one long fucking day. And after a while, it kind of drives me a little nuts. And then between 8 and 11 p.m. or maybe 11 p.m. it just sits on the horizon, so it's like in your eyes for like hours, and you're like, and if you have a shitty day, it's like this day is not going to end. It's not like I can just go to bed and just have a new day. It's like, nope, it keeps on going. And last night I had this whole thing. I was like, well, we're pretty good at synthesizing daylight in the winter. We're not really good at synthesizing night, and it's weird. It's not really my style, but anyhow, I like it here.
You wear your sunglasses after dark all the time. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I roll like that.
All right. Well, look. Kind of interested in these latest cyber attacks that have been going on.
I was going to talk about this.
Well, I'm going to beat you to the pipeline. That was
I want you to. Right.
Last week was the pipeline. Now JBS, not GPS killer, as is my fantasy. JBS USA, the world's largest meat supplier, says it was the target of an organized cybersecurity attack. In a statement they released, they said that its U.S. headquarters in Greeley, Colorado, that it has affected some of its servers in North America and Australia and Canada. And Canada and Australia both reported shutdowns. Plants in halted. I'm so sad to hear they had to halt the slaughter of livestock in Texas. They're killing the wrong animals. Iowa, Minnesota, and Colorado. They're the leading processor of beef, pork, and other prepared foods, and they're not aware of any evidence at this time that any customer, supplier, or employee data has been compromised. Now, of course, everyone's blaming it on those cyber geniuses, the Russians.
There's no report on the ransom amount they want yet, or I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, this looks like the future. I mean, it's like this is like kind of where the shit's going. Just kind of nihilistic chaos is basically where the shit's going. So
if it's all for money, I'm not going to cry a single tear over corporations getting milked as they milk us. When it goes into the water supply, the gas lines,
now you're talking,
the air, then we have a problem.
I think they said about 1/5. I don't know if it's JBS's 1/5 of their capacity is wiped out, or is it?
Yeah,
is it
it's
1/5 or 1/5 of the country. I didn't understand that statistic, but I hope it's not 1/5 of the country.
Temporarily on hold. I guess you'll be eating moose in Iceland. Do they serve moose in Iceland?
No, they serve a lot of fish and all that stuff.
Much better for you.
Moose food is more like northern Sweden, northern Norway, and of course Canada.
I knew you'd know that.
Moose are dumb as shit, and if they see you, they attack you. So that's I'm digressing.
So are most men. Hello.
Exactly.
All right. Speaking about stupidity, I got to get into this one. A man in Lubbock, Texas, not exactly the Mensa capital of the world, alleges that he was sued and forced to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages after he wrote simply a negative review of an Irish company online. According to the lawsuit, Timothy Castleman hired a Dublin-based company, the offline assistant, to assist him with various tasks because he was trying to grow his online business. All right, so they're working together, and he had a couple of problems with offline assistant. He said they had financial disputes, miscommunications, and following these disputes, Timothy Castleman alleged that errors were made by the company that caused him to lose $8,000. Okay, that prompted him to write a negative review about his experiences. And then, he thought, look, never did I think I could be personally held accountable for a review of a business. Well, you know what? Watch your P's and Q's, you goddamn cyber instigators. The company first asked Castleman to take down the reviews, saying they were false and that they were owed over $300,000 in defamation. Well, Castleman either refused to pay or he claimed he never got the letter from them. And he said that he only owed the company maybe $60,000, but he didn't even know that. And the fines and the interest went up to $300,000. Now,
Jesus.
And Castleman had his home as his castle seized and sold. Castleman is without a castle. He said, I took a lot of pride in my business, and after all is taken away from me and you feel helpless, there's nothing. I'm telling you, I can't yell and scream enough to get anyone to do anything. Everything you work for can just be taken away in a minute. And again, very, very dark days and thoughts of suicide.
Oh,
poor Timmy Castleman.
Yeah, that was a tough one. It was a tough one also for Cameron Pirelli as she plunged 7 stories to her death over the weekend in the East Village.
Second one in New York. In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, because that was in New York. That was a rooftop party in the East Village. And she basically tried to jump from one party to the next, from one building to the next. There's like 3 feet or 5 feet, but she was like, I think in heels. And that didn't really end up very well. And now she is dead.
I mean, you have to know how to estimate the distance between point A and point B and rooftop jumping. Leave it to the Park 4 kids, people, please.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm sure she wasn't wearing sneakers, all I can say.
No, exactly.
Well, in another grand act of folly, 62 men were arrested in a police raid on a drug-fueled orgy. No, it wasn't my birthday party. Sorry to say. Police in Bangkok, one of my favorite names, have arrested dozens of men in a raid on a chemsex gay orgy.
Oh, yeah. Chemsex is a thing. That's for sure.
I'm looking into it. Staged in violation of the coronavirus restrictions. The arrest made the raid the largest in the nation's history during the COVID pandemic. They occurred just May 23rd at Pharaoh's Sauna number 2, a bathhouse in Bangkok's Wang Tong Lang. I mean, that sounds sexy in itself, district.
Yeah.
And police reported, of course, finding condoms, needles, drugs, and various other things. Now, the 62 men arrested face charges of violating social distancing degree because none of them had wongs big enough to obviously stretch the feet.
I mean, in order to have an orgy, that has to happen. So, yes.
You know what? They might come back eventually, but this is a little out of hand. Now, in lieu of, I guess, the chemsex parties are something big in the gay community. I'm huge. I'm a novice.
Oh, yeah. I know about it. I'm not participating, but yeah.
Tim, I'm not questioning. All I'm saying is chemsex survival kits come with color-coded syringes and a booklet on what to do if you're arrested. Now, the kit includes, I got to get one of these, latex gloves, condoms, lube, syringes, timers, which are timing, time for the drug to kick in, straws, and a bust card, which is a little booklet listing your rights in case of an arrest. And according to the Gay Men's Collective, the kit, hey, it's only like $7, man. I'm stocking up.
Yeah, well, it's an assistance kit. It's not like a what do they call it? Like a survival kit? I guess that's
it's a chemsex kit. Call it what it is. Hey, made by gay men for gay men and by men, and that includes me and men who have sex with men and whatever they want to have sex with. I'm all for it. Well, I'm expecting one in the mail tomorrow. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it's
take it away. Take it away.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Well, I'll go from chemsex orgies to an asteroid the size of the Chrysler Building.
Now that gets me horny.
It is whizzing by Earth. Now, NASA put it in the quote unquote potential hazard category. I don't think it's going to hit us. It's going about 40,000 miles an hour. It fucked things up. An asteroid hitting, I always had this kind of like sick fantasy of basically all mankind working together, world peace, cleaning up the environment, saving everything, and then that's when the asteroid hits.
Boom, comes an asteroid. Well, the issue is like space junk, of which there's so much now, they don't even know what to do, is that most of Earth is water. So we don't really, and any one given city is such a pinprick on the globe.
Right.
We're pretty much safe from asteroids. Now, we're not safe from assholes because they're everywhere these days, including on flights. I mean, the upswing of attacks, it's just out of control on flights. I don't even get what's happening here. I have no idea. Calm down, people. That's for everybody but me.
People are fucked up. So they're worried this year the tick population is going to be through the roof, record tick population. And basically all the park rangers and stuff are like, I guess stay on the trails, but we can't really promise you anything with that. And, out west, you have the Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And then, of course, here in the Northeast is the hub of Lyme disease.
Which is where it was started, it was started.
Well, Lyme
proliferates.
Lyme, Connecticut. And of course, there's a conspiracy theory because right across the Long Island Sound from Lyme, Connecticut is Plum Island, which was a military
testing ground.
Lab, like a chemistry lab, biological warfare lab. It's right across it. You can see it from there. So a lot of people in the conspiracy theory community think, well, because Lyme never really existed before that. They're like, well, we think this came from Plum Island.
And we know plenty of people that have been afflicted with it, and it's horrible because there's so many different symptoms. Now, all of this wahooing about whether the Wuhan laboratory leaked COVID or whatever. What gets me is America has so many freaking leaks of pollution. Everyone is within a 50-mile radius of some super fun site. We still have lead paint. We still have poison in everything we drink and almost everything we eat. This is a totally contaminated place, and there's leaks of everything. Now, of course, we'd like to know the source of the latest pandemic. And now China says the first case of a new avian bird flu in humans. I mean, this is the future, but it's also the past. Pandemics have been rife. Look, let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago we learned how to bathe with soap more than once a month in a public pool.
Right. The germ theory is relatively new. And so the ways we deflect a lot of these things is kind of a new phenomenon. So we'll see. And my hunch is it did leak from the lab, negligence and not wolfing down bats.
I mean, so many things can and do, or even worse in America, the knowing poisoning of drinking water, of food, of rivers, of streams, of just about everything. I mean, we're basically filth. And look, that we can fight off so much anyway, most people, because we are nothing but carriers for different bacteria and viruses anyway.
Yes, we are.
Oh, don't look at your eyelash under a microscope. I have an animal one for you.
Oh, the one you sent me. Oh, yeah. Go for it.
And since I sent it to you, I'm going to beat you to the punch because I like this one. There were two.
No pun intended. Right.
I sent you two, but I'm going to read this one first. What about the mountain lion that smashed through a front window of a home in San Bruno, just south of San Francisco? Now, according to police, the wayward mountain lion was likely attracted to the taxidermy trophy heads of big game. But the cat was probably super disappointed, or maybe it was just seeking revenge. They don't know, but the homeowners scared the animal out and they haven't found it yet. But I sent you the bare knuckle punch of a bear. You want to
there's that one too. One? Well, no, because I actually want to go back real quickly about mountain lions and just inland empire, kind of California, the expansion of residential neighborhoods. It's an issue. I wouldn't say people have to worry, but it happens where people go out for a little jog in the mountains of the desert. Next thing you have a 90-pound cat pouncing on you, and the rest is history.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind a 190-pound cat pouncing on me anytime.
Now we're talking.
Well, I'm not so sure one's going to break into my frickin' window, knowing what I have beside my bed, and also knowing that I might be in my bed. It's not going to happen. Just saying.
So why don't you tell the bear story? Because I kind of glanced over it. You know it better than I do.
A TikTok clip posted online shows a wild black bear with two cubs in tow That's dangerous.
That's dangerous. Once the cubs are there.
Attempting to enter a California woman's walled yard and tussling with her dogs. And it was 17-year-old Haley Mornacino who rushed to her dog's defense and literally punched the bear, a bare knuckle fighter. Ladies, bare knuckle fighting is not dead.
Oh my God.
And got rid of the bear. Now, I got to say, pretty freaking bearish.
Yeah. Usually humans.
With cubs in tow.
Oh yeah. Ladies and gents, don't try that at home. Usually humans lose that one.
This was her quote. Okay. I go over to the bear and I look it in the eyes. And the first thing I think to do is push it. Push a bear. Push an apex predator man.
Oh my God.
Well, and she says, I don't think I pushed it that hard. Well, sign her up. UFC is waiting for some new lady brawlers, bare knuckle or not. She's a crazy, brave 17-year-old. Now, ladies, if she can take on a bear, you can take on a man that might want to get bear with you when you don't want him to. All you got to do is push him over a wall of his own insecurities. We are very happy to be coming up on episode number 99. And quite excited, actually, that we're featuring Sydney Squid Silver of the Lunachicks and talking about the new book that's coming out this week called Fallopian Rhapsody. And here we go. It's the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our special guest, Sydney Squid Silver. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Sydney Silver, also known in the past as Squid, talking about the release of Fallopian Rhapsody. I loved the book, Sydney, I have to say. An overview of the incredible career of the Lunachicks. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I have to say, I wasn't in New York when the Lunachicks were going down, but reviewing some of those videos, you women shredded. You really did. At the height of the Lunachicks, you were shredding. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I was shocked. I was impressed. I really was. I love the book. It's hilarious, heartbreaking, really honest. I love the illustrations. Are all the illustrations by Theo and Gina?
Yeah, those guys, we all met in art school. They were both visual art majors, and you couldn't get them to stop drawing on shit if you sat on them and taped their hands down. So
what I love is it's kind of very much in the vein of Big Daddy Ed Roth at Rat Think, which I never see women drawing in that style.
Yeah. Big influence on those guys for sure.
My cousins, when I was a kid, had Big Daddy Ed Roth models and they sold them. And that's how they both opened twin comic book shops. So,
oh my God.
And I've, growing up with that, I also put out a few comics myself, but the illustrations are amazing. It's a fat book. I just got it a few days ago. I devoured it.
Aw.
And what's interesting too is, let's just start at the beginning. So here's a bunch of rowdy gals, Brooklyn or New York based, want to start a band. Good luck, kids.
But you went to LaGuardia School of Performing Arts, correct?
We did. Yep, we did. Actually, I met Theo in junior high school in 8th grade. And then we went to separate high schools because at the time, LaGuardia there were two different schools back in the day. There was performing arts and music and art.
Oh, okay.
So we separated. We went to different high schools for a year. We remained friends, but then in 10th grade, those schools combined into Lincoln Center to become LaGuardia for the first time.
Oh, so there are different locations. It wasn't always at Lincoln Center, correct?
Yeah, they were like annexes. Everybody thought they were separate high schools, but technically they were annexes of the same high school. Nobody really thought about it that way until they came together and joined into one building. And so by 10th grade, we were back in school again together. And this time Gina was in the mix because she had met Gina in 9th grade in the art department.
LaGuardia's Fame, isn't that?
It
Fame,
is.
Yeah.
Well, Fame was like the performing arts side school, which was the one that I went to, which was in Midtown on 47th Street near Radio City. And then music and art was way, way, way uptown. And then they all ended up together. So we ended up together. Yeah.
Let's face it, Sid, it went from, or before it was fame, it was infamous because you gals, you guys caused a bit of trouble. Was it around in the 9th, 10th grade that you decided, I mean, I know you were all involved in arts one way or another, but that, all right, because I know in 10th grade, I dropped out and ran away to New York. That's when I'm like, I got to do it. Is around the 10th grade when you're like, I got to do it.
Well, it was definitely around that time that we were all going to shows. You know, back then, right, the drinking age in New York was 18. And if you had a fake ID, you could probably be like, 13 and get into shows and clubs back then. So, of course, we were doing all of that. And we hooked into this like downtown scene and became friends with a lot of the local bands. And I think it was really at that point, I think before that, you think Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, you're a fan, but it doesn't really seem like something that's accessible until you start hanging out, partying, drinking and smoking weed and becoming friends with all these people that are then getting up on stage and playing. And when that becomes your crew, you think like, that's not impossible, and they're all like egging you on to do it. So, they're like, you and your friends should start a band. And we were like, we will. And we did.
Well, and it's kind of the same thing for me, although, this is like maybe the early 90s for you?
Late 80s.
Late 80s. So, I mean, when I was in 10th grade or 9th grade, and I was going to a lot of rock concerts in upstate New York, and I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. And when my English teacher wanted me to read shit I had already read beyond, I'm like, I'm getting out of here. That's what we did. And what I still can't get out of anybody, my generation or yours, is we did, fake ID or not, get into all those clubs for free, get drinks for free. Yeah. And it was with being around the people that we're creating that made us say, and in my case, I mean, I liked all kinds of weird music before I came seeing Suicide and Mars. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
100%.
I mean, we were already punks and we were all, obsessed with punk culture and living that life anyway. So also, that again, that feels accessible, right? That's not like, it's not like watching ABBA. It's like something that's like, it's on a small stage, it's in front of you, it's raw, it's dirty. It's like, you can feel like, it's DIY. It's close to the touch, Well,
what's interesting, go ahead, Tim.
And it's also a rebellion against, if you're going to LaGuardia. I mean, there's so many proficient musicians there. Were you? I'm not saying you're not proficient. I'm saying it's a
it's funny that you say that.
No, but because the generation right before you, it's like, Marcus Miller and Omar Hakim, these guys who go on to play with like Miles Davis and all this stuff. And so were you there as an instrumental student?
Oh, hell no. I mean, I was there as a drama major, which is like perfect. And they were there as art majors. And the music students were, I'm not going to get so much more for saying this. I mean, they were like the biggest nerds to us. And also the punks most of the punks that hung out were all the visual art majors. So I didn't really even hang out with kids in the drama department. I did my thing there and I had fun. But then after school, it was all about the art majors, because for some reason, those were the kids with the mohawks and those were the kids going to shows and listening to the Misfits and that just had their punk rock on. The music students were like playing other people's music, like classic music, which was just it was, like we said, all about breaking the rules, all about doing stuff that hadn't been done. And that really never changed for me. That I ever wanted to do was play anybody else's music. It was never about that. It was all about making something that was ours, like making our creative expression and like, getting that out.
I mean, absolutely. It's one of the reasons, basically I consider myself, before I even did music, a spoken word artist, but I had to use music first. But my sound was going to be unlike anything that you ever heard, and maybe something you never wanted to freaking hear. That's also good. No problems there.
Yeah, and it's like, it almost doesn't matter like what it is. It's, it's going to be visual art, it's going to be music, it's going to be spoken word. It's not so much about like, oh, I'm a musician, and for the sake of being a musician, it's like, I'm here to express myself, and I'll use whatever medium I can get my hands on that people will,
So urgency is like, because I'm a trained musician. where aesthetic, it took me a while before I decided what aesthetic I was going to commit myself to. Even though I was into transgressive music, that was weird when I was younger. It was just, I was bombarded by so much material that I hadn't made the choice. And I didn't have the same urgency as, say, some of my friends who are a little more transgressive in terms of their the way they express themselves, because I have an aesthetic I'm doubling down on, and I'm just gonna fucking do it no matter what.
Yeah. And it's almost harder when you know something. I mean, we didn't know shit. And so we didn't have any of the trappings, for better or for worse, since we didn't really know how to play music when we started, especially back then. There was nothing influencing us except our taste in other music. There were no rules for us. There was nothing to be broken. There was nothing to break out of, because we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. So we just did the only thing that we could, and what to our ear, whatever like kind of entertained us and sounded like the kind of music that we wanted to listen to. So it's like, it almost gets harder when you get smarter. It's like, there's this real, you know what they say about kids, that they like test really young kids on like a genius, like an actual genius test. And it's something like 85% of like third graders are like geniuses. And by the time they get to fifth grade, it's like it's gone.
But also you did some weird ass covers, More Than a Feeling. I have to bring it up because I love cover songs. I've been doing them forever. I did a whole covers album because usually there were songs I hated but that had great lyrics and I had to own them. I mean, you covered More Than a Feeling. I covered frickin' Steely Dan. Now, they're not a competition, and we know they're the worst band ever. We know it. I want to just talk a little bit about what really defined or made the Lunachicks stand out, especially because at that period when U.S. punk rock, quote unquote, was really male dominated, there were a handful of gals in bands, very few all-girl bands. And it was really kind of horrifying to me when I was reading about, all right, we're talking like mid-career for the Lunachicks, where you're on like the Warped Tour. And after this podcast, I'll tell you a little bit my own battle with Blink 182, off the subject for a minute. And hang on, a lawsuit, just saying. But that I was horrified to know that you would even be told, oh, we had a band with a girl singer this month. You can't play. I guess I never really faced that because right from the get-go, I started going to Europe more often. I mean, I rarely toured America because I couldn't, and not even with spoken word. But I was just kind of even shocked that late in the game, which is now we're talking like the mid 90s, and you're on these big mega tours or booking and you're popular. And they're like, oh, we had a band with a girl singer.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
Honestly, the most intense period of that was actually in Europe. And like we, in the late 80s, we got immediately signed. We got kind of discovered.
By small shit, Paul Smith. I call him small shit.
I love that you call him small.
I just thought I put it out there.
So
I was the first. He released my first spoken word cassette, but I have to say I'm probably the only one he didn't rip off. But yeah, I call him small shit. But carry on. After your third gig, Blast first steps in.
So Kim and Thurston dragged us out of the limelight where they saw us play.
There's nothing bad you can say about her that I haven't said myself.
I have nothing,
I got nothing to say.
That's between you two.
No, it isn't. But the thing is, after the third gig, approximately, look, you get signed. Cool as fuck.
Right.
Cool as fuck.
And we, went straight to Europe, right? So the deal. Had really a great success there, and then ended up touring over the next bunch of years, way more in Europe than we had in the United States. Same thing. It's almost as if the band had like, these two lives. And the first incarnation was like mostly in Europe. We spent years there. And the worst, most sexist shit I don't know about that. It's like competition here. The first round of really like the rude awakening for us was actually in Europe, where we were zigzagging all over, because at the same time, Babes in Toyland and Hole happened to be on tour at exactly the same time that we were. And that's when we were actually being told that they were rerouting our tour because we weren't allowed. They wouldn't let us play within the same month. It was like one token girl band a month. We can't let you play. We already had a girl band. And
so sucks. And imagine if there would have been somebody that stepped in and go, wow, an all-female festival still hasn't, I mean, I'm not talking whatever Ani DeFranco did, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what it was? It was like, then they were like, oh, it's the Lilith Fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and we were like, I don't remember either if they asked us. We were just like, we wanted to like puke in on ourselves. I mean, nothing against any of them, but for like once again, what the fuck did the Lunachicks have to do with?
Hello. Exactly.
Any of those bands that sound, I mean, it would just be, it's like absurd to even think about it. And so once again, it's just like, why? It's so stupid. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I mean, I was on a completely unrelated phone call that had like nothing to do with music. And someone was like, oh, Sid used to be in a band, blah, 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 chicks in the oh, some guy used to be an A&R guy, used to work for, so-and-so record. Like, oh, I remember the Lunachicks. Like, it wasn't the Dixie Chicks, but it was like some other.
Yeah. No, actually, the Dixie Chicks are mentioned in your book, where somebody's referring to you as that because they've got no fucking frame of reference of anything else that's happened.
You mean the Chicks? They've changed their name to the Chicks.
Yeah, we've been discussing the Chicks. But it wasn't even them. It was some other band, but it was just like ridiculous, like a band that is like an acoustic. I mean, I actually have never even. I know like the name of this band, but I've never even actually listened to them before. And I actually pulled it up on YouTube and listened to it and just sat there and just was like, I can't really believe we're still having this fucking conversation. They're like, oh, we know you. It's like, oh, vagina music. Yeah, sure. Like, what the fuck do we have in common with like some acoustic playing guitar chicks in like cowboy hats? Like, I don't know, really nothing. So
I mean, I guess that's where I might be one iota a little bit luckier than you, because there was really nothing they can fucking compare me to, because they just can't.
You are in a class of your own.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm passing with flying colors because I dropped out as soon as I could. I canceled myself before anybody could, because you might not get it, and I don't give a fucking flying shit if you do or don't. And that's another aspect of the Lunachicks. The thing is, with the drama background, with the art background, with the absurdity, and with tackling subjects that people weren't talking about. I mean, and even to call an album Binge and Purge, and the amount of snack talking that is in Fallopian Rhapsody. I'm like, oh, you skinny motherfucking chicks. What the? I guess I must have been fucking puking. First of all, I don't snack, but honey, I look like I do. My name ain't lunch for nothing. The amount of snacking that the Lunachicks talk about in this book, Fallopian Rhapsody, is amazing.
Well, we like to eat a lot. I mean, look, a lot of, we were stoners, a lot of smoking weed going on, a lot of snacking. And, we were 20 something. So that's,
burning a lot of calories.
Get your snack on, girl.
Also what's interesting is, and we'll come to this a little later, you went on to open a tea house and some restaurants. I didn't know you had the robe lane, because Tim and I used to rehearse right under.
I used to be in Flood right downstairs.
Flood Studios.
So whenever you guys would have like Two Broke Girl, any of these girls titles shows that were really popular about 10 years ago, I don't know, it was like the Girl Next Door. You had some show that they filmed upstairs, and
they did some Gossip Girl episodes.
Gossip Girl, that's what I was. Yeah. So they
we don't even have to go there.
Well, I'll say real quickly. They knocked on the door, one of their interns or whoever. They're like, "You have to stop playing. Gossip Girl's being filmed upstairs." And I'm like,
who?
What are you talking about? I mean, and then they paid us off. They paid us off to
Good.
stop playing.
Yeah, good. Exactly. I'm like, they should have. Like, when stop playing,
stop otherwise. Yeah.
Go give them $100. They'll stop playing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go back to Fallopian Rhapsody just because I love saying those two words together. But what I think is important about this book is that, a lot of people, they say, well, you have any advice for young musicians? I'm like, yeah, become a chemist, become a doctor, become an architect, ladies. Do music or art if it burns, but don't think that the road is easy. And look, this is after 43 years of doing shit. Yeah. Don't do it. We need better chemistry. We need better architecture. And what's interesting is also you really lay out how the road was. Oh, it seems like, oh, wow, here we're getting a break. Not really. It's like the ups and downs of a career trajectory of any kind of alternative music, especially when you're a bunch of wild ass gals throwing down, not afraid to be ugly, theatrical, talking about farts, shitting in people's faces. I mean, and you kept it up for 15 years through a lot of fucking hell. And the thing is, thanks for talking about that, Hell, because it's so important to express just what this kind of lifestyle can do to people.
Yeah.
Not everybody. And the thing is, half the band fell in, and they can buy the book and read it. Half the band fell into the fucking hole that sometimes a lot of people fall into.
Yeah.
But you all came back out.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you and the rest of the gals about that, my friend.
Thank you.
You know, because people just don't get it. You know, it's not a fucking glamorous lifestyle. You know, oh, you're on the Warped Tour. That must be great. No, it must be fucking hell on wheels. And I love, by the way, I love that the Offspring, by the way, talk about that later, opened for you. And then
we were mean to them too.
Well, they got huge and they brought you on tour twice.
No, they were so sweet. I mean, there was an incident. I think our tour manager yelled at them because they thought they drank our beers and stuff, but they were, they were funny. I mean, we like to scare boys. That was pretty much like a great pastime of ours.
And we haven't met before this. I have a little fetish for Dexter Holland, but not because of the music. Maybe you can hook me up. Not because of the music, because it was hot sauce. Drives a plane, virologist. I'm like, oh my God, I'm amazed. Anyway,
well, I got to tell you, they are the nicest guys. They couldn't be sweeter.
They're having a reunion. Are the Lunachicks? Are you going back out?
Are the Distillers opening for them? I think I saw something.
I think you better give Dexter a call, honey. That would be an amazing double bill.
Those guys are great. We toured with them a bunch. So they opened for us when nobody had heard of them at all because we shared the same booking agent. And we were like, who are these guys? You know, whatever. Orange County Rose, bring it. So they came with us. And then, you know, it seemed like, you know, a couple of months later, they broke. That album broke huge. And they took us on 2 enormous stadium tours with them, which was like so great of them.
I mean, and so you're on a stadium tour with guys who are famous for pretty fly for a white guy. I mean, it's so dumb. It is genius. Yeah. What was the response at those kind of shows? I mean, all right, lots of people. What's the response though?
Those shows were interesting because, I mean, let me back up like real quick, first of all, and just address, you know, something you said about like making money and doing this. It's like when you started and we started, there was nobody making money doing this. I mean, that wasn't a conversation. You know, if you think about what the top 10 looked like in 1988, you know, I mean, I'd like to look it up. Pretty rough.
Or 79, forget about it. We ain't going there.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
So it wasn't about that. And then at some point in the middle of that journey, all of a sudden you look to the right and you look to the left and your friends are making a lot of money. And something happened. Punk rock broke again in the world. And this time, you know, huge in America. And as you know, this history has seen. So then all of a sudden, you know, you're on this tour with this band that is like #1 or whatever, and it's full of a lot of real normal jockey ass white guys who are the same dildos that you fucking were avoiding. You know, I mean, we grew up in New York. We didn't have that middle America high school experience that a lot of people did with like the jocks and the weird. I mean, we grew up with a bunch of super freak weirdos in art school in New York City. So our experience was definitely different. And we hung out down, you know, we got nosebleeds above 14th Street. And, you know, so we hung out with other weird people, but so we are thrust into the middle of America, you know, into just like what the kind of shit that you see on television. So a bunch, it was intense. It was tough. You know, I mean, there was always a core of great fans there, but there was like just also like a sea of like frat boys yelling, "Show us your tits," and just like
you just said the sentence I'm going to cut in because "show us your tits," and thank you very much for pointing out also Blink 182. Not going into that now. I was opening. What am I, an idiot? Sometimes I think so. For the Rollins band in Cleveland, frat bar, spoken word. Someone said, "Show me your tits." I did because I'd already had them plastered everywhere. But this is when I would have a police mag light, right? Black Shack. And I'm like, now show me your fucking dick.
Yeah.
The Rollins band panted them. And that's why they call it a mag light. But that's a small club. You can't take on a freaking arena.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do it. You should have all had mag lights. Sorry, that could have been on the rider.
In 88, I was 13, and it was kind of interesting because it's like this new wave of punk is actually, at least at my perspective at the time, was like, I'm not talking about you, but I'm just talking about where it ended up with Blink 182. Ultimately, it was like, okay, kind of the worst of all worlds. It's taking big production of the thing that punk originally rebelled against.
Yeah.
And then it's taking the dumbest elements of like basically just like no expressive virtuosity. So I kind of jumped, my older brother was more into punk, but I kind of jumped ship to the satanic death metal that was coming out of Florida, which actually wasn't jocks at the time. It was basically like feral, anti-Christian Satan virtue. And it was like, for me, this is maybe where I'm going to go in terms of my transgression. Yeah. But I was 13 at the time. So I was like, I don't want to be associated with frat boys. But
it's a really weird thing. There was we got like just random. I think we were hanging out at our label's office. He's like, I got tickets to go see Rage Against the Machine in Jersey. You guys want to go? I got backstage. We were like, definitely, let's go do that. So we jumped in the car and we drove out to Jersey, and we're on stage, backstage, whatever, kind of facing the audience. And I look out and I noticed there's a whole crew of these super cheesy chicks, like in acid wash with like the frosted hair. Like they literally look like they just came out of a Bon Jovi video. It's like the same chicks that were like playing like the whole groupie routine for Whitesnake, didn't even like bother to change their outfits and makeup and show up at this Rage Against the Machine show, and they're like up there like trying to get with the band, and I'm like, this is fucking.
I mean, of all bands, Rage Against the Machine.
Zach quit pretty close after that, and it was like my first moment where I was really like, man, it's like once you fucking get to the top, what a fucking disappointment it is. You spend your whole life fighting against something, and then you just become a part of it somehow, and it's just a bunch of dumb assholes, the same dumb assholes that you were like trying to like work your way away from, and then it's just, and they're your biggest fans, and you're just like, I mean, look, nothing against the fans and nothing against the girls, but it's fucking weird. You go see Rage Against the Machine and it's like the same cheesy shit that you would see at like any dumb hair metal band. It's just fucking weird.
Well, you can't choose your audience, although I would prefer to, but I mean, this is also why I prefer spoken word or intimate shows, is because nobody's going to come there because it's Friday night and they saw me on fucking MTV, which I don't even think exists anymore. Yeah. But I have been lucky, not that there's not idiots at whatever show, but I guess because I've been crab walking sideways that I have never opened for anybody that was that huge, because they won't take me on fucking tour with them. I don't know why. Scared, I guess. Glad you went there. Thank you for me. But I understand. It's like you can't choose. And why are people? It's a Friday night. They're out. What are they fucking there for? And they're not going to we're not going to, like the anti-Mother Teresa, suddenly psychic surgery convince them that they're all ridiculous suburban gun toters.
So would you say you're pro elitism? I would say I am, actually.
I'm a sexual elitist,
but in a weird way. I mean, it's kind of a tough pill for me to swallow, because I feel like I want to be compassionate and understanding for the masses and all that stuff. But if once you dive into the arts, it's like, how can you not be an elitist if you care about it?
Yeah, but I think it's just, I feel like bad, like, okay, I'm being mean. And you do like, sure, let it be great for everybody. Let's all get along. We're all one. Yes. But you know what? It's culture shock. It's culture shock when you come from a place that is like out of the dirt, and it's clubs and it's raw and it's punk, and you are the other, when you're used to being on the outside of society because that's the world you grew up in. It's just weird. That's all. The world's changed a lot and it continues to change. And I don't want to stand around being bitter about it. That's not my game. But I think it's just, I think just especially in the book, we just, for the sake of the historical, just for putting it kind of down as like, this is how it kind of rolled out. I don't know. It was just our experience.
And also it was brave. It was brave to go on those tours like Warped Tour, because you're outnumbered by a bunch of dude idiots. But also you have to do that because it's an opportunity you hope is going to lead to something
well,
else.
you have to represent. You have to represent.
And you have to represent.
You have to represent, and you want to teach people, you want to educate people, and you want to do what you can to end the kind of like really fucked up shit, which is like women fucking getting grabbed at shows and, all that kind of nasty stuff that's going on. And just the way that, women are being fucking mistreated and marginalized just because they want to hang out and do what everybody else is doing. And that shit has to stop. And so, of course it was important for us to be a part of that. So, somebody's got to do it.
Hell yes, babe. And also I like that there were a few incidents where like Theo or you or somebody is not only stopping the show, you will take it to the frickin' mat if it has to go there.
Yeah, Theo is
because sometimes
at that.
It has to go there.
It has to.
It has to. Some unfortunate. Look, my early spoken word shows they were only 10 minutes, and trust me, I had to take you to the mat a few times because they couldn't even take that. I had to build in fake violence because people, and it was only once in 43 years that it was a woman that interrupted a show. Mm-hmm. So that's the road we took. That's the path we had to take. And it's the time because it was something it's not that we wanted to do it or we wanted to do it. We had to fucking do it.
Yeah.
We had to.
Lydia, I mean, I have lots of memories of you from, when we were like real young, from back in the day, and, the films that you were doing with Richard and all that. And it was like, you're amazing. And it really stands out. And, like you're
thank you so much.
A force and influential and just like fucking brave as fuck to be doing.
And that's why I'm so happy to be talking to you too. And
man.
I really appreciate that. Those films were really misinterpreted and also embraced. They were embraced on such a high, bizarre, ridiculous level. Type film for the Whitney Museum, cinema of transgression, frat boy party, beer blast, so misinterpreted. I was having to talk about a psychosexuality that exists in some women. Hey, Lunachicks were living it, honey. That nobody else was talking about. You had to present an act based in music, theater, drama, and art that nobody else was throwing down to that with that intention and stirring shit up.
You gotta stir shit up.
And honey, that's why we're talking to you. And it's one of the reasons we have this podcast, because especially during COVID, it's so important to just present other people of all kinds, musicians, artists, filmmakers, that in their blood had to create. There was no other option, because anybody can have an art hobby. But really, if you don't have a vision, don't give it a sound. And you had a pretty fucked up vision there, I have to say. I loved the kind of shredding metal. There was some punk rock. Then we're doing more than it was pretty diverse. And considering that because you were together for so long, and I also loved reading about the disagreements about trying to settle on a certain sound.
Yeah.
And there was no one typical song sound for the Lunachicks. It was pretty diverse. And anybody, I always say when people, I like your music, I'm like, what, you heard one record? And the same could be said, I heard one Lunachick record. You better go back and check it out.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of different things going on there. And also, I think it's important, I think there's like a reason why we really touch so much on the hardcore scene in New York in the book too, because that was really prominent at that time when we started playing. And it was very, in the same way that the like Orange County punk sound really has its own sound, like the hardcore scene really had its own sound. And it was like, there was just so many fucking rules. You know what I mean? There was so many like guidelines rigidity. About like, it was very rigid. It was very like a certain thing. And I think because we weren't really accepted by that, and also we were, like the boys that we hung out with were like more feminine than the girl. The girls could beat up the boys. I mean, it was so like fluid, gender fluid and weird and just like whatever, that it just, all that rule shit just always pissed us off. It just made us feel like, just from the very beginning, I think it all, and also even like the 77 punk thing seemed so corny in a way by 1987. It was just like, you're just gonna like, be such a poser, like cookie cutter of this thing that's like already been done. And as much as like all that music was so influential for us. We just felt like it's so stupid to just be stuck inside of like a fucking uniform of any kind. And it made us want to do like totally ridiculous shit and cover like More Than a Feeling and like these like, you know, shit that people would obviously hate, you know, and dress in ways that we knew that people would hate because it was anti-cool. And
well, I mean, the New York hardcore scene was it's just so macho. And I always say that with my guy friends. It's like the grumpy old man, that cliche comes from something, and that's rooted in rigidity. And it's basically like, I do it this way. It's the way I've done it my whole life, and it's the way it's going to work and all that shit.
Also, Sydney, look, I would rather be hated for the right reasons than loved for the wrong reasons. And I quit bands. I quit Eight Eyed Spy because I thought they were getting too popular. I didn't even like that band for fucking bullshit reasons. I'm like, I don't like the look in your eye. I would rather be hated for the right reasons than loved for the wrong reasons. When I came up, or when you came up, or now, there is not that many examples of fucking pussies that poke it.
Yeah.
What's also important in the book, and I don't want to dwell on this too much because there's a lot of sad tales about people falling into drug or alcohol holes, and the reasons are much deeper than just, oh, it was convenient, it was there, I was doing it, and it became a habit. It's like, and I think it is addressed in the book. Everybody's talking about, you know, maybe nobody knew I had depression. I was feeling lonely. I had anxiety. I'm doing a documentary now on artist depression, anxiety, and rage. Interviewed 35 artists. It's so important. And people don't realize that, you know, this life, being on stage is what we live for. There's 24 other hours in the day.
Yeah.
And it gets, you know, even the best of times, people have issues, and also the issues, we all know they come from childhood, best of childhood or not.
Yeah.
And I like to think art can be, we do art because we do think it's the salve to the universal wound, but sometimes we wound ourselves in the process of putting it out there.
Yeah.
But what I'm very happy about is that everybody has come out. And what's interesting to me is, you know, you had a level of success that a lot of people will never reach, although not the level that, of course, you want. But everybody had a pretty successful career post the Lunachicks.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with your trajectory because you did go deep into the hole, and you came out and you had kids and you opened a tea room and some restaurants. But excuse me, may I call you boss ma'am life coach? I am really impressed.
Thank
because
you.
I feel like I'm a life coach to people that I know.
You are.
and I've done, I do spoken word workshops, like you write, how do you read? And it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of. But I'm very impressed with that. And can we talk a little bit about that? Like, all right, you're down in the hole, you come out of the hole. That takes a while. It's really hard to come out of.
Yeah.
And what made you open a tea room or a restaurant? And what a great idea.
Thank you so much for all your kind words. And, you know, first I'll say, I don't think it's an accident that every single member of this band ended up being an entrepreneur and a business owner after leaving playing music for a living. We were, which isn't always the case, you know, a bunch of bosses. It's a lot of personalities to have running the show in a band. So it is only because we love each other like sisters that we endured so much together and hung in there for so long. But it's definitely not an accident that every one of us went on to open a company and, you know, and be our own boss, you know, in all different ways.
Because you're boss women.
You were learning as you're going along, and you were coming up with intelligent enough decisions to actually sustain. And that learning process basically was like, you can't do better than that. It's better than any business school. You are a.
Yeah, we lived it.
The smartest thing of all is there came a point when you realized music is not going to pay your freaking rent, honey.
Well,
that's one of the smartest things. Please tell us some more about that, Sydney.
Well, I just think that when we hit our 30s and we saw the kind of money that our friends were making and the kind of lifestyles that they were having, and not, you know, nobody really talks about this a lot, but, you know, a lot of them did have kids and did have families because they had fucking wives who weren't on tour doing that shit for them. And they were still living the same lifestyle. And you know what? And a lot of them are still doing it and have kids. And it's like, it's real fucking different when you're the one, you know, pumping the kids out. So I don't know if it doesn't sound like super fucking aggro, but it's fucking true. You know, it's not the same thing.
Sydney, you're on the Lydia screen. You can be as aggro as you want or not. Honey, no biggie.
Well, you know, it's like when you look at people like Gwen or Santi Gold, and you know, it's like fucking amazing. They just fucking take their kids with them. You know, they're at a point where they have a certain amount of money that they can do whatever the fuck
they got
they
nannies.
want.
They got freaking nannies.
And you know what? We would have happily done the same thing had we been in a position to be able to do that. But you know, we were never commercially successful on that level. We never played commercially viable music, for the record.
It's also a freaking fluke. Whether commercial or non-commercial music, it's really a fluke, and it's tokenism. Who gets chosen for some record company to put enough money behind to convince a bunch of people?
It's timing, it's talent, it's luck, it's hard work, it's all of
so
those
many things,
right?
So
it's all those things mixed together.
Would you have wanted to have kids and take them on the road with you?
You know, now that I have kids,
Right.
I realize how complicated that is. You know, it's less complicated when your kids are little. You can kind of do anything with them. Now that I have teenagers, and I know some people who are, you know, insanely successful celebrities that have children that are getting older, and it's like, I think, God, that must be so weird for them to just be moving all the time the way they are. And you know, because like my kids have like friends, they have like crews, they want to do what I did when I was a kid. I did my thing. I didn't want to do my parents' thing. Like I don't want to fucking be dragged around by my parents as a teenager. So I kind of think like, I wonder how it is for them. You know, you always want to be cooler than your parents. And that wasn't hard for us, but I think I think that it might fuck with your head if you know, if the opposite is true. Like
I've seen the opposite true. Like when the parents are cool, the kids might be really straight. I have to ask, your kids are teenagers. Do you have any idea what kind of music they're listening to?
I don't really know what the older one listens to. The younger one is, you know, it's really interesting. Kids have access to everything now. It's not like it was
too much.
When we were young, you had, you know, it's like, you know, you think about somebody like Howie Pyro, right? Somebody, you know, that was an art, that was a career to have that type of a record collection and that type of knowledge about music. You had to dedicate your life to it. I mean, you spent your days hunting in record stores and thrift shops for albums and cultivating. That was like literally a job. Now it's like, you just can have access to anything you want. So I got to say, the little one has, you know, right now she's on like a 90s kick, and she calls me like, you know, like, she's like, you're like, you know, what am I, Y2K queens, and, you know, all this funny shit. It's like, she listens to really cool music, actually. And she's 12, you know, which again is like, we were snobs because it was like an elitist thing. It's like, oh, it's like you knew about a band.
Right,
it's like
totally.
It made you who you were. And like, you would like catch somebody out, like if they didn't know who that band was. And like, because it was like part of like your fucking education. But now it's like, everybody has access to everything. And so it's like, everything's just different. The world is so different. So it's like, good for them. She listens to like the fucking Cure and, you know, Nirvana, and like, she's just like into it. So it's cool.
All right, Mama Rocker. I have to say, well, I recently became very obsessed with it. I'm just going to say it one more time, because I was a huge Bowie freak too. And I'm talking 73 on, because I'm a little bit older. The Mick Ronson Slaughter on 10th Avenue. If you do not know it is on YouTube. It is beyond Bowie, cabaret glam, great lyrics, amazing guitar shredding. I'm just saying, for the title track, Forget the Love Me Tender, Mick Ronson, Bowie's guitar player, Slaughter on 10th Avenue. It will bring us back.
Oh, wow.
Our teenage. I'm just obsessed. I'm obsessed. And actually, as somebody that loved Bowie up to Diamond Dogs being one of my favorite, 11, Slaughter on 10th Avenue is, just saying, Mama.
Wow. All right.
Check it out. All right.
You.
Don't tell the 12-year-old. Let her find it out herself. So let's talk a little bit more about, you know, your path post Lunachick and how everybody became an entrepreneur. And let's go back to what we were saying about, you decided to open a tea room.
Well, like you said, you know, music really, it pays the bills or it doesn't. And, you know, one of the reasons that when we were getting up into our 30s and could see like, okay, people that are sticking this out or have a level of comfortability, like we're still fucking sharing hotel rooms. And, you know, you don't want to live like a teenager. Like that shit is great. I'm like, we did it at the right time. You know, do it when you're fucking hungry and you're raw and you don't give a fuck about sleeping on the floor and being up for 3 days and all that shit and being uncomfortable. And then after a while, it was like, man, I'm like in my 30s, you know, you start looking at the rest of your life and you're like, you know, nobody's paying our fucking bills. None of us were independently wealthy. None of us were married to anybody that was independently wealthy. And you just like, somebody's got to fucking, people got to eat, you know? And
by the way, when you feed people or you give them drinks, they love you more than maybe if you give them music.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was on the subway and one day, and it was like during when I had the restaurant, and somebody was like, excuse me. And I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those moments where someone's like, are you Squid from the Lunachicks? And she's like, excuse me. She's like, do you own the tea room? And I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. I just got fanned out as like, you know, a restaurant owner and not a lunatic. It was like the first time that ever happened.
Congratulations, success. Because you open a tea room and it's successful and it's cool.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. And, you know, before that happened, actually, I got really sick after I stopped playing music.
The spleen issue.
Yeah.
I'm horrified. Thank you for revealing that. I've had a lot of unfortunate problems. Not to having what you describe in the book is almost like a grapefruit tumor on your spleen. This is serious shit. Yeah. And again, it comes out of nowhere.
5 years clean, and then I find out I'm fucking dying. And so that was a
really good life lesson, hon.
It was definitely a moment in time. And, you know, I had this like, all right, if I die, you know, I did it my way, like pretty much it's cool. Like I got clean, I made amends to people, you know, I fixed broken relationships. Like I'm pretty fucking good. I had a run of a lifetime with my career. As far as I know, you know, Joey Ramone and Iggy Pop both fucking put in print that they like my band. So I could die now. Like, you know, what do I care? I've, you know, met all my fucking favorite icons, you know, rock stars and stuff. So it was kind of like, what's left? And then the only things that were what's left is like, oh man, I always kind of thought I would have kids. It would be weird if I died now. And also like, I kind of wanted to start a business, like just because it was something I had never done before. And, you know, we did like the opposite. None of us were formally educated because we were touring right out of high school and we didn't really have time to go to college and to go down that road. But, you know, it's like 13 years later. And I was just like, I want to do like what grownups do. Fuck it. Not because I have to, but because I've just never done it. Like, I've never done it. I want to like own a piece of real estate. I want to own a business. Like, why can't I? It was basically like, why can't I? Like, it was, you know, it's like a dare for me. It feels like a dare. Like, oh, well, you don't know. I was like, I don't fucking care. If he could do it, I could do it. If she did it, I could. Why can't I do it? It's like how I learned how to drive when I was 16. I was like, look at all these idiots that drive cars. If they can drive cars, why can't I fucking drive a car?
Also, you saw so much business done badly. At 15 years on the road, you see so much business done badly, incorrectly, immorally, stupidly, unjustly. And it's like, I mean, that's the challenge. So the challenge is first, life or death. I'll take life, even though death is always knocking. The other challenge is I've been exposed to so much bad freaking business. Maybe I can do it the right way.
Yeah. And also maybe I can fucking get paid because like I never cared about getting paid was the last thing on anybody's mind. It was like, you know, back in the day, it was all about making art. We're artists. We want to make art. We want to make art. And then at some point you're like, I don't want to live in a roach infested apartment with fucking 10 other people. Like I want to fucking be, I want some nice, I want to just like, I want to be whatever. I want some shit. Why not?
Understandable.
Yeah. And if you want to have kids, like somebody's got to pay for that shit. And it's like, I want these experiences. It wasn't like, oh, I want money. It's like, I want
gotta live.
I want to have different experiences and I don't want to spend my life. You know what it really is about? I never was so fucking blessed to do what we loved for so many years. So, but the point that we all reached our 30s, how are you going to go get a fucking job that you hate after having done what you like burn to do your whole life and follow your dreams? And the thought of having to do shit that like no one's gonna make me do what I don't want to do. It's that same stubborn punk rocker that's like, nobody's gonna fucking make me do shit that I don't want to fucking do just because I need money. I'm gonna do what I want to fucking do, and I'm gonna make it work. And so that meant
boss lady. That meant boss lady.
The restaurant business is very difficult. So you go from a very difficult business to another very difficult one, and
it was fucking so intense.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I fucking opened that restaurant, and before the year was out, I was fucking pumping out my first kid, and then I got immediately pregnant with my second. So I had 2 kids immediately as soon as I started that business. And I had been like a trashy teenage waitress, working downtown on the Lower East Side. Like, I didn't really know anything about running those businesses. Most people that.
So what inspired that?
I don't know. I was like sitting around every day, like, what the fuck? I got to do something. I had no money. I was like, I got to fucking pull something out of my ass. I'm going to start a business. And I had an idea I was living on the south side of Williamsburg, and there was nothing over there. It was super fucking ghetto over there.
Because when did you open that? Because that's right. I mean, now it's ridiculous. We know this, but
I was living on the south side in '97 when I got clean, right. And then
nothing there,
and there was nothing there. And I used to see everybody. I used to see them walking back with their iced coffees. There was this one place called the Verb. Remember, there was the El Cafe, and there was the Verb. There was a couple of businesses on the north side of Williamsburg. Right. And everybody would be coming in the summer in their flip-flops and their cutoffs with this iced coffee from fucking 15 blocks away. And I was like, I can't believe you can't buy a fucking iced coffee anywhere on the south side of Williamsburg. So somebody should open a coffee shop. I'll open a coffee shop. Somebody said to me, and I was sober at this point. So somebody goes, well, if you should either open a bar or a coffee shop. Restaurants are really hard to run. You should open a bar or a coffee shop. So, but I was sober. So I was like, well, I don't really want to open a bar because I don't want to be up all night, and I don't want to be around a bunch of asshole drunk people all the time. So I'll open.
Let them drink tea.
Shop.
Let them drink tea.
And then I had this idea to open like, some coffee shops will open like a place called like the Tea Room. And then I had this little place in mind, and then I found this giant space, and just one stupid thing after another. I mean, it was kind of like the way the band started. It was like I had no real plan. I didn't know what I was getting into.
It was a great space, though.
It was really fun. It was
really beautiful.
It was it was timing. Again, it was the right time. It was the right situation. I was dumb enough to try it because I didn't know what I was getting into.
You were smart enough to try it.
And I was persistent enough. But it's like, even talking about it now, I never realized how much it reflects the same road that the band
aesthetic.
Like, just didn't even know what we were getting into. And I was in a creative mindset, and I wanted to build it, and I wanted it to look cool. And I wanted, I had fun, like, playing house. And I bought all the furniture and painted it before I bought any of the fucking equipment for the kitchen, because I was like an idiot. I spent all my money on making it look good, but then that's why people wanted to come, because it looked cool, and then we figured out the rest.
Boss woman, because I love calling you that, to where we are now, which is amazing. You had a life cut out, and you saw the best and the worst. You did what you wanted to do. You were fucking driven. And it's so important, I think. Life coach, how did you even say, all right, well, now it's time to do that? You got 2 kids. You had a band. I'm sure you had everybody was life coaching each other or needed one at that point. What turns you to say, all right, now I have enough information? Because I do think it's important, especially for women, because we're always advising people, listening to stories. How did you actually turn that into a profession? And by the way, are you hiring? I'm just asking.
Well,
double teaming. I am the anti Anthony Robbins. More like a cross between Phyllis Diller and Groucho Marx. But
you're like one and done, ready to go. I'm telling you.
All right,
just put the sign on the door.
I'm put my application in the morning. Now tell me, boss lady, how did that happen? I think it's so important and necessary.
Well, I felt when I was kind of wrapping things up at the restaurant, it had been like a long run. It was 13 years. Our lease had finally run out, and it was like, do I want to continue? Do I want to do this all over again and open another, do this?
Exhausting.
And people were like, oh, you should just do another tea room in Bushwick. And I was like thinking, why would I want to do exactly what I just did again? Right. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do something different. Like, it's always about doing something different. I don't want to just carbon copy, cut and paste. That sounds so fucking boring. Like,
hear ye.
And I had some of the most amazing things that happened while I had that restaurant open were really there was a lot of mentoring that went on. There was a lot of young people that came through that space. And sometimes I felt like my office was like the Godfather. People would come, they would sit, even kids that weren't working for anymore would come back. You know what I mean? They'd come during the day, they'd grab a drink, they'd come sit with me, they would talk to me about like where they were, what was happening with their lives and the decisions that they were up against and where they were. And it was like, I felt like a therapist in my office half the time. And, you learn amazing psychology about people having 40 employees. Like, human beings are fascinating. And I learned so much about myself having to become a boss of other people and having, the thing about like 12-step recovery is like when you get clean, it's all about like, you clean up your side of the street, live and let live, like worry about yourself, don't worry about anybody else. And then you enter this phase of being a grown-up, which is probably like a precursor to me actually having kids at some point, where it's like other people's business are your business. You know what I mean? You're responsible for other people. You're responsible for something bigger than yourself. It was a lot of tears. It was a lot of soul searching. It was a really intense learning curve for me for a long time. I learned a lot about myself, and I had to dig really, really, really deep to stay sane doing that for a long time. And I came out of it feeling like I really had something to offer other people who were interested in opening businesses, because you think business is about business and you realize business is made up of a bunch of people that are full of a bunch of
relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships.
And a bunch of fucking broken hearts and a bunch of fucking, core beliefs about who you are. And, it's just like, it's still about people. It just was so intense. And I don't know, that was the stuff that was so interesting to me about it.
What's important is that if you as women, as teachers can help businesses to understand that it is about relationships and that the people at the bottom will do a much better job if they feel good about what they're doing.
Yes.
And you just have to pay the right amount of attention because of the injustice, the inequality, the leveraging in this country is so freaking out of whack on so many levels.
It is
just
so
that we're
out of
still
whack.
arguing about fucking minimum wage. That of course women don't want to go back to work because they can't afford childcare and they don't want to work at a restaurant. All of this.
It's so complicated. And quite honestly, it's one of the things that really had me ready to be done doing that job, because you put in a position where you can't fucking win, like exactly what you said, talking about minimum wage. Well, here's the dollars and cents of this business, and this is what I need to do to be profitable and keep the door open for everyone. And now I have to sit down and talk to somebody about why they're killing themselves for $12 an hour, but they can't have $13 an hour.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want to be the person who tells them that they're not worth $13 an hour for backbreaking labor. And it's just like,
you need to be the person that tells the businessmen that you need to raise the wage, motherfuckers. That's the story. I think it's phenomenal what you've accomplished. Now, is there a reunion coming? The book is out the day before my birthday, June 1st. The book is out.
Y'all.
I already celebrated by reading the whole thing. Does anybody know? Is there a tour coming?
Well, we were booked to play after many years. Like we have,
of course,
like very many years. I don't even know how many years it is, but we were booked to play last year, right as the pandemic was rolling in. We were supposed to play, and it was literally in the eye of the storm of the shutdown. So we had 2 sold out shows at Webster Hall, and we were booked for Punk Rock Rolling, and it all. So we were in rehearsal for the first time in
how did that feel?
It was great. It was great. It was
sometimes you gotta rock. Sometimes you just gotta fucking rock.
It was super fun. I mean, like I already tell you all day long, like how much we already love each other, and everybody's busy, so it's like a reason for us to hang out. And writing the book was a great reason for us to be together and spend time together and hang out. So, now it can be the fun that it once was, because so much of the drama has been removed. There's no drama. Yeah.
Right. And now it is about the fun. Well, anyway, the book is fantastic. Fallopian Rhapsody out June 1st. And by the way, very reputable book company. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. That's the major label that we never got on record deal.
It's been really great speaking with you. I don't know how we never met before, but
I don't know. It's crazy.
I had left New York by then. I've lived in many places. I've been out of New York for Giuliani came in, I got out.
Girl, that was good timing.
And
by the way, all of those shows have now been scheduled for 2021. So
and I think that's going to be a damn good time.
Thank you.
Boss lady, this is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and
Thank you for joining.
Thank you so
Sydney
much.
Lee Silver, a fucking shredder boss woman. Trust, go to her website. Check out those Lunachicks. I have to say, I was impressed.
Thank you,
honey, that don't come easy.
Thank you so much.
Matter of fact, I feel like I might have to just jerk off on all the lady goo that we've been talking about. I'm gonna take my leave. Thank you, Sydney. Say hi to the other gals.
I will for sure.
Much
Have
love
a great
and respect,
night, guys.
You too. Thank you.